Okay, so this is chapter 58,
Okay.
page 367 or either one. So actually this is the part for this chapter is the part where Darcy and Elizabeth finally confess or come clean with each other.
Okay.
So particularly the text where Mr. Darcy told Elizabeth, the paragraph is Elizabeth was too embarrassed to say a word. After a short pause, her companion added, okay, the text. You are too generous to trifle with me. If your feelings are still what they were last April, tell me so at once. My affection and wishes are unchanged, but one word from you will silence me on this subject forever.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, this is like the very, very ultimate romantic way of apologizing and re-proposing to another person.
Right.
So yeah, so this whole chapter to me is focused on this. You can say this excerpt
Mm-hmm.
is technically telling you what this chapter 58 is talking about. They
Right.
are reconciling and they are coming to terms with each other
Right.
and they are engaged.
Right.
Yep. So if I were to have evidence to back up, is how the starting of the first few paragraph, Elizabeth mastered her courage
Mm-hmm.
and told her, thank him for what he did with Bingley and Jane, and then helping him with Lydia and Wickham, and then uh, her perception towards him and confessing her feelings as well. Yeah, practically that's what I get for this chapter.
But what was it about? I mean, beyond uh, um, beyond that being the plot, the storyline, the plot. Uh, what was it? For those of you who are familiar with the element of literature, I'm trying to get this thing to go further down. More space. Doesn't want to give me more space. Okay, never mind. I get very upset with you. Okay, so we know when you chart a plot, so we know that as the story unfolds,
Yeah.
this part of the story, as the story is unfolding, we call this the rising action. Okay, so
Okay.
this is rising action. Okay. One of the things that you learn from this part of the story, when the story is being unfolded to you, uh, one of the things that you find out is a little bit more about the character. You find out who the character is. You find out their likes and dislikes. So our first book club, if you listen to that, we were talking about Mrs. Bennet. We're talking about Mr. Bennet. We're talking about the background story to their conflict or their issues. So these are some of the things that happens at the beginning, the rising action part. Okay, the action is being unfolded to us, and we are understanding more about the character. All right, we are also understanding a little bit more about the society. Okay, um, so that's the opening part of the story, the character and all that. Then you will reach a point when it's the crisis. That's where the story is at its most tense moment, if you like. It's the climax, right? Okay.
Yes.
Then following that, you have the fallen action. All right, the denouement, if you like. This is the falling action.
Yes.
So what Jennifer has focused on is this part of the story, falling action. Sorry, the writing is awful. Okay, can you erase, please? Thank you very much. Falling action. Okay. So that's the part of the story that you have read us, Jen. That's the
Okay.
part of the story that you have read us. But beyond that, is there something there that you want to focus on? Because as it stands, it's like it's very well known. Okay, fine. You know, he's confessing his love. But what about it that drew your attention?
Um, Maybe because between Darcy and Elizabeth relationship, they
Mm-hmm.
are like technically they are bickering and stuff like
Right,
that.
right,
Then he is very prideful, she's
right,
prideful, and finally, yeah, I guess that okay is because both of them in this chapter finally let go of their pride, in
right.
a sense, and
Mm,
then they talk to each other.
right,
There was no, how to say, it was they are equally on par. It's like they can see eye to eye already
right,
without anything kind of like blocking them or veiling them
right,
from each other.
right,
So to me, it was like, oh wow, finally
right,
like they let go and gonna be together.
right. So if we look at the element of literature, if we looked at the element of literature, and one of the key elements of literature is character, and one of the important features of that is that the character has to have a kind of the character has to have that the character has to be dynamic.
Mhm.
All right. A character that is dynamic has what Jennifer was saying, has to have that arch, that sense of that arc of, you know, he goes from one state to another to another to another. So he's not static. The opposite of dynamic would be static.
Okay.
Right? Static. So a static character just stays in one place. There isn't any kind of a movement. Whereas a dynamic character moves from, you know, I'm being mathematical right now. I'm imagining myself as a math professor, you know. This is my my fantasy come true. I'm a bit of a nerd, but you know, there you go. So see, no chuckle, nothing, not a single, you know, sound coming out from you people.
They
Okay.
mute they mute
Sorry?
they mute their mic, doctor.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Maybe silent chuckles going around. So, a dynamic character will go from one state at the beginning of the story. Yeah. At the beginning of the story, the dynamic character will kind of go from one state to another. And then towards the end, reveal another aspect of themselves. That's a dynamic character. Give me examples of a static character in Pride and Prejudice, that the character stays the same throughout the story.
Uh, mm, oh, a lot. I mean, if I would say that there is
Mr.
yeah,
Collins,
Mr. Colin, Lady Catherine, Mrs.
Lady Catherine,
Bennet, Mr. Bennet,
Mr. Bennett.
Lydia.
Yeah. So it is important when you're reading a work of fiction, be able to see the difference between a dynamic character and a static character. Okay?
Okay.
A dynamic character allows you to discuss elements of literature with your analysis. All right. So the dynamic character, you should choose characters that are dynamic to make certain kind of comments about, you know, what the issue of the story is, or what the writer is trying to do in the text. So that's important to be able to pick on. So when you read that part, Jennifer, when you were
Yeah.
reading that part, so that already tells you, okay, all right, he's not the same man he was at the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
Right? Now, in understanding that this part tells you he's not the same man, another thing that you also need to kind of ask yourself is, what is the unsaid? What made him change? Who made him change? Right? Okay, so uh, do you follow me so far?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool. Good. Jennifer, anything else you want to add?
Uh, nah. It's just two of them are changing in this chapter, so it's good for me.
So which means besides Darcy, who else is a dynamic character?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. Yes.
Right. Right. So when you're reading a text and you're deciding, which characters should I focus on, which parts of the narrative should I focus on, one of the things you want to kind of like, one of the ways to kind of decide on that is focus on the dynamic character.
Okay.
Oh,
That's a good way to kind of say, if you want a story, if you want to discuss the story and you want to focus on a character that allows you some kind of a movement, the character moves from one state of being to another state of being, choose a dynamic character. If you choose a static character, you end up saying the same thing at the beginning of the story as you would towards the end of the story. Do you understand?
Okay.
Okay, unless you are
Yes,
trying to
Doctor.
focus on the static character of the story, then you focus on those characters. Okay.
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 All right. Jennifer, anything else?
No, good. I'm good.
Okay. Any questions so far?
I want to add something, Doctor, if you don't
Please,
mind.
please.
I see, as I said before, the three chapters I chose, 34, 35, 36, as if it was a turning point in the life of the two main characters. I mean, Lizzie and Darcy. Because as if Jean tried to portray Mr. Darcy in negative way. The first chapter, or the first time she mentioned him in the plot. And she tries to then defend him and change our negative perspectives about him, all the way till this 34, 35, 36 chapters. Because there is this confession and this letter that reflect his ideas and what he was before, and as if this turning point, once he saw Elizabeth, as if there was this spark had sent it from her, had sent from her eyes, and they tried to change his his feeling and his beliefs, his behavior. But at the climax of this change, of this turning point, which it happened to all of us, not just Darcy and Elizabeth. I think everyone have this experiment and have this moment that he could tackle things from different perspective.
Right.
So I think his affection to Lizzie was the turning point, and that makes him this spark that change everything. I think so.
Yeah, good. I mean, I agree with you. And you are right. The unsaid, the in what you can infer from that conversation, the unsaid is there is a kind of, I remember asking you this last week, who are these characters loyal to? The element of loyalty,
Yes.
at the beginning of the story, who are they loyal to? Loyal.
Family, society.
Loyalty. Am I reading it right? Loyalty. Am I spelling it right? Somehow it looks a bit dodgy.
Okay. Everyday writing only. Okay. Okay, Miss.
Ali. Okay, so who are they loyal to at the beginning of the story? Who are they loyal to towards the end of the story? That's already an indication of a kind of an issue or the theme of the story. Do you follow?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, finally, hello?
Yes.
Just a second. I will switch off the recording.